Well, it is my great honor to have on the podcast my friend Abhijit, who is the president of legal and general counsel for the Hinduja group in London, which covers so many different areas, and we're going to get into that. But a company that was founded by the patriarch in 1914, if I recall correctly, an important year for so many things in our world history. But Abhijit has been ranked among the top 50 lawyers in India. He's one of the top 25 global general counsels. He's on the top 500 GC Power list. He is a fascinating person, as you're about to see in a minute, and combines just a very accomplished knowledge of industries with an accomplished knowledge and wisdom of people. And I think that's why you're going to take away so many nuggets from this. So, my friend, welcome, and thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak before you and your audience. Thank you.
My pleasure, my honor. And so I want to start off. You've had a journey of different jobs. I think you may have had 6 or 7 prior legal jobs before you landed with one of the top conglomerates in the world, Hinduja. Can you talk a little bit about that journey and in that journey, kind of how you thought of the decisions along the way so that folks listening might say, oh, I've got a decision like that to make, and it's interesting. I might look at it a little differently now.
I'm glad you were asking me this question. When I was in India, I worked in 7 companies. Most of them are listed companies, big multinationals, public sector company, and even a joint venture company where the government and Suzuki Motor were the shareholders. So basically, I was fortunate enough in working all kinds and shapes and types of companies. I was also fortunate because you can name any industry, and I have been able to work in almost all the industries because these 7 or 8 companies total that I worked, I think they have all the industries. So therefore, I was very fortunate to that extent. And that gave me a lot of knowledge, experience, and opportunity when I joined Hindujas. So that was a fascinating journey. And I remember that when I was changing jobs, people used to ask me that why you are changing so many jobs. I was interviewed by one of the CEOs in the biggest pharmaceutical company in India. And he also asked me the same question. Why did you change in so many places? I said the reason being, A, you get to know the industry if you are working in different varieties of businesses, which is very important. And B, you get to know people. You know how to handle people. So these are the 2 very different things for which I felt it necessary to change my jobs. And I never regret. Sometimes, Craig, it's really a challenge because if you stay 2.5 years in one company, one industry, and then shift it to another company, varieties of industries, the nature of the companies could be different, then certainly it is a challenge. But that is the challenge which kept me going in India, and that challenge helped me considerably when I joined in my present group, Hinduja Group.
Yeah, it's the concept that I hear, and I've obviously read a fair amount. I know you, but I've also read some of the interviews you've given in the past, and the concept of continuing to improve. That if you're stuck in a position where you're not really growing, then you're not really serving your best interests. So it is fascinating, especially in the job you're in. Now, because it does cover so many, I mean, everything from transportation on one end to cybersecurity on the other end and all parts in between. Can you tell the viewers who may not know Hinduja as well a little bit about what the company is, a little bit about its history, and some of the industry verticals that you support?
Greg, in India, as I was telling, I might have worked in 20 to 25 different varieties of industries: manufacturing, services, investment banking, finances, in all spectrums. It could be pharmaceutical, it could be, the automotive industry, it could be lamp making, machine tools, it could be tire, pneumatic tire. So you can think of any kind of industries. The reason why I'm again raising this issue, when I joined Hinduja's, the beginning of my journey in Hinduja was pretty difficult because, they have got 12 business verticals, and in that 12 business verticals, there are at least 35 to 40 businesses they do. Now, this particular group was set up, as you already are aware, they were set up in 1914 when the First World War started. And the founder of the group, he was based in Mumbai, Bombay in India. He started the group in Bombay. And from there in 1919, he moved to Iran. Now there really the group flourished. And from 1919, the group was in Iran up to 1979 when the revolution took place. And then the group came out of Iran, then fanned into different continents, different countries around the world. And then in 1979, they set up their global headquarters in London. Now, Hindujas is a surname. It is a family. It is an Indian family. It is a joint family where 4 brothers do business jointly. There is no division of businesses, division of assets in the family. Now, they are one of the richest families on earth, and they are the richest in the UK. So therefore, at the top, we have got a family. But one good thing about the family is that they may be the richest, but they are quite professional in their approach. They know very well that it is not possible for them to manage their global empire as a family. So they created varieties of companies. Many of them are listed companies, and they have given free hands to all those companies to be run by their own CEOs, managing directors, etc. They don't interfere into their day-to-day running, but definitely they are the investors. So definitely they are conscious of their return. So they make sure that the companies are run professionally, because ultimately it is their money and they have to get the dividend. Now, very shortly, I can give you some idea about the group. As I said, it is a huge group. Our annual global turnover is $18 billion, and 150,000 people are working in 60 different countries. We are in 12 business verticals. So put together, there are at least 35-40 businesses that we do. We are in automobile. We are the owner of British Leyland. We bought the company in 1986-87. We are the owner of Gulf Oil. It is one of the best known brands, lubricant brands in the world. We bought it in 1987. Then we are in banking. We have got the largest private sector bank in India. It is a listed bank, one of the top banks. Then we have got bank in Switzerland. Then we have got banks in Mauritius. So therefore, in the banking business, we have got a couple of banks who are operating in Europe as well as Asia and Middle East. Recently, we have added power as our vertical. We have got power plants. It's basically a thermal power plant. It is based in India, but we have got plans to acquire power plants in different countries. Then we have got business process outsourcing, BPO. We run one of the largest BPOs in the world, which operates in 15 countries. These are not really call centers. We have got around 75 back office centers, and many Fortune 500 US companies. They are our clients. We run hospitals. Healthcare is a major business for us. So we run several hospitals in different countries. Healthcare is one of our main verticals. Recently, we have gone into the hospitality. We are building up a big hotel in London. It is a $1.5 billion project, which we are hoping in the next couple of years it will be completed. We are in real estate. So therefore, you can see that we are in different spectrum of industries, businesses. So that's why I said that when I came here, even someone who was accustomed in handling so many businesses in the first 1 or 2 years, I even found it difficult to manage so many businesses. But later on, my previous experience in India helped me in getting through the problem.
I can imagine. I mean, it's so, you're never bored, that's for sure. And you and I have talked enough for me to appreciate how many different kinds of issues you may start your day thinking you're going to get hit with one issue, but it's actually a whole series of other issues that might dictate your day, which is why I'm so honored. Your time is so precious, and I'm honored that you would do this. I love learning about the history of organizations like Hinduja because it is a family business, so it comes from principle. It's not just about making money. And I read the principle of one of them of the company is service with devotion, a willingness to see fulfillment of one's self-interest in the active promotion of the interest of the collective. Mutual trust, respect, cohesion, and cooperation are emphasized as key organizational guidelines. There is a high premium on healthy internal competition. Can you talk a little bit about, Abhijit, what that means for you and your day-to-day, and what are the overarching principles by which you make decisions on behalf of the company?
The family is very interesting, if I may say so. There are 4 brothers who created the empire. Actually, it all started with their father, as I was mentioning to you, Craig. From 1999, when they shifted to Iran, till 1971, the father was there at the helm of the affairs. But then in 1971, he expired. Then 4 brothers took over. Now, the unique principle of the family is really something very interesting. The family believes that none of the assets belong to anybody, but everything belongs to everybody. Now, it is quite difficult to understand the principle because, their father, they thought that as a family, if they are united, then they can carry on for ages. But the moment you start thinking of division, that this part you look after, that part I look after, it belongs to you, it belongs to me, it belongs to my another brother, then you cannot continue for too long a time. That is the reason for the last 104, 105 years, they are a typical united family. Decisions are taken jointly. It is always on consensus basis. Even as a family member, if you have got any view, it will be respected. Eventually, there is no veto power. Even amongst the brothers, there is a hierarchy. Brother number 1, 2, 3, and 4. They all work and operate as a unified entity. In fact, they always take pride in telling we are one soul put in 4 bodies. And the family constitution, family documents are very clear. Nothing belongs to anybody. Everything belongs to everybody. It's very interesting. There is no personal asset in the name of anyone in the family. They don't own anything. They have got everything all over the world. But then if you try to pinpoint that this particular asset belongs to X or Y, no, it does not belong to X and Y. Say, for example, they have got real estates all over the world. So as a family member, there are protocol, there are decorums. So if you want to go and enjoy your villa in south of France, you are most welcome. You can go there. There is a protocol you have to follow. And then don't claim that this villa belongs to me or to my father or to my grandfather. It belongs to everybody in the family. You go there, you enjoy. Similarly, other family assets. So that's something very unique. Nothing belongs to anybody, everything belongs to everybody. That's why the assets are all unified. All assets are devolved into finally with trusts. Trusts are there in different countries around the world, and therefore they have got no personal assets in their own name, which is very unique. Now, as far as the businesses are concerned, there is a general division of responsibility who looks after which business. There always you will find two players. One is a primary player, the other one is a secondary player. Nothing more than that. Primary player runs that particular business, but the secondary player is also there who knows what is happening in this business. The very unique family, I will say, they are very strong in communication. They communicate with each other. Every single minute they communicate with each other. If they meet you, I won't be surprised in the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, this message is spread across the family that we met Craig and this is something interesting what he is doing. So communication is the key. So my bottom line answer will be that they are a very unified family. It is not that everybody in the family is in the business. It is not possible. They have got many members in the family. But there are 9 identified people because the first generation is no more. They are fathered. In the second and third generation, there are 9 identified people who run their global empire. But when I say run, they most of the time don't take any executive position. It is only advice because ultimately at the end of the day, it is their own money. They are the investor.
So talk a little bit about how that impacts you and your leadership. Obviously, those are your clients in many respects. And so how do you manage your teams consistent with the values that are so interesting that you just described and are very unique? I mean, that's to have a family multi-generational like that, maintain consistent principles is quite unique.
Well, you said that my life is not boring. I think that's an understatement because boring is an understatement. It's really very tough, very difficult. And at the initial stages, I really found it difficult to change my decision making, my thought process, my way of working, etc. Because in the first half an hour of a day, you may be dealing with a power project. Then next half an hour, you may be dealing with business process outsourcing. Third, you may be dealing with some kind of foundation charity work. And there are so many verticals. So really, it's a challenge from the business point of view because my job is unique. If you ask me who are your bosses, the 9 members in the family who are actively involved in the business, each one of them is my boss, each one of them is my client. So it is important for me to deal with them. They deal with different varieties of work, different varieties of product. So when they call you and start discussing something, maybe your mind was completely clouded with something else because the earlier member of the family discussed something else with you. So switch over, then immediately get into the next conversation. Sometimes is really difficult. Then I am involved with the businesses also. I work very closely with the CEOs of all the companies that we have globally. So time management is very important. Decision making is very important. And managing people and their expectations are very important. Now earlier, when I joined here, I had some difficulty because, if family member number 1 tells you to go right, and at the same time, family member number 2 calls you and say, will you please now go to left? Now, naturally, you can't really perform. But one very, very good thing in the family is that they are very unified, cohesive, extremely courteous, respectful. So you are entitled to tell them, member number 1, I have been asked by member number 2, it is urgent. Can I look into this, or you want me to talk to the other members and try to see whose priority I will look into? They are very good. They always say, no, if somebody has already told you to do this, you do that, no problem. And I will also talk to the other members of the family. If they feel that no, this is urgently required to be done, they themselves take the responsibility of telling that Abhijit, no problem, you go ahead with this job, whatever I am asking you to do, and I will talk to X, Y, and Z in the family so that you don't have any difficulty. They also will understand that you are right now doing this job. So in that way, the principles of the family, that you work in a very cohesive way, be respectful to people, treat them as a member of your own family. In fact, we are all called as part of the big Hinduja family, Hinduja Parivar. Parivar in Sanskrit means family. So we are a part of that. So therefore, it is very challenging, no doubt about it. But I think, it is quite easy for you to handle all the people because, they understand your psyche. And one very good thing about them is that they are very down to earth. Although they are what they are, one of the richest in the world. But, their feet are firmly on the ground. So they know what is the problem of a general person, general employee, common man. They know, of course, their way of dealing with them may be different, but then they understand that what could be the problem. So you are free to tell them that, I have to look after my family in this way. So is it okay? Can I do it tomorrow? And you are free to talk to them. They will not mind. So I think it is difficult, yes. So many businesses, so many people, global empire, but it is possible to manage because the family will not put pressure unreasonably so that, you are unnecessarily under pressure, that they don't do it. So it's a balancing act you have to do. But once you learn the tricks, then obviously you will be able to manage.
Yeah, I hear transparency coming through over and over again, that there are no separate factions that are developed within the decision-making group, because they realize that puts you in an uncomfortable situation as being the go-between, which is such an important philosophy. And it's amazing that the principles set out in the early 1900s are really what still guide the family today. Are there specific stories that you can think of where you've seen one of the 9 family members create? I'm hearing empathy a lot, that they may not have the exact situation as their employees, but they're very empathetic and professional with the people who are serving the company. What do they do? What are some of the things that they do to put their head in the or put themselves in the shoes of somebody else in the company?
That's a very interesting question, and I can give you so many examples. I think right now it comes to my mind. We had businesses in Iran, and I was sent there in 2008. After that, I went there a number of times. And in 2008, we were negotiating for a $1.5 billion South Pars gas project in Iran. So I was participating in the negotiations, and then I came back. And I still remember it was a Saturday, and I got a telephone call from the chairman of the group, who is the eldest brother. So he was asking me, how do you find Iran? What is your opinion for the first time you have gone there? Mind that they know Iran like back of their palm. They are asking me, since for the first time you have gone there, so just tell me what is your impression. I told him that with due respect, I don't find it interesting because American sanctions are biting Iran. And this is high time that, you should close your business in Iran. Now, the elder brother, he laughed at me that how can I close? Because we are there for the last 40, 50 years. But you will be surprised, then consistently next 2-3 years, I told the family that because we have got US operations, it is better to respect the sanctions, although we may not be directly impacted, but it is always better they close your business in Iran, and then, at the opportune time when the sanctions ease out, then we will see. You'll be surprised, after 3 years, they close their operations in Iran. Now, I'm a rank outsider. I have got nothing to do with the family. I gave them a professional advice and they listened to that professional advice and closed everything. And till today, we are respecting the sanctions, international sanctions. There is no business. There is absolutely nothing. Now, I am not the only person. If you can convince them, one good thing about the group, I will say that you can stand up and say, this is my view. On any matter, you are entitled to give your views. And if they find that's interesting, with reason, with logic, with science, if you can convince them, they will listen to you. I'll give you one quick example. Iveco is Fiat's subsidiary. It is one of the largest companies in Italy with a turnover of 30 or 40 billion euros. They were with us in joint venture. And we had some difficulty in maintaining the relationship a couple of years back. So we had a meeting in our London global headquarters, and some of our lawyers, external, they told us that let us sue them, let's do this, let's do that. Now, I was feeling very uncomfortable, so I kept quiet. And after the meeting, you will be very surprised. The 3 or 4 members of the family, they came to me. They said that, Abhijit, why you are keeping quiet? Is it something you wanted to tell that you did not tell? I said that, look, my position is that don't fight. They are your joint venture partners. So neither you will win. Even if you win, you will not win because you will lose Iveco. It is always better that sort out with them. They are your joint venture partners. Tomorrow you may need them for other businesses also. They said done. And after that, we started the negotiation and we took over the joint venture company. Now, again, I'm telling, I am not here since I was born. I am here only the last couple of years, completely outsider. As a professional, they will listen to you. Many times they tell me, Abhijit, what you are telling me, I am putting it, the group chairman or the group co-chairman, they always tell me that I am keeping it in my brain. Anyway, for the time being, you go ahead with my decision, but I'm not really not discarding your idea. It is there in my brain, and at the appropriate time, I will use it. That is really the best thing which makes me to stick to the group, to work, to do value addition, and to look after their interest.
Well, it's a beautiful depiction of what I would call the meritocracy of ideas, right? That there may be a pecking order in terms of who's in the family biologically and not, but the best ideas are the ones that will make their way to the top ultimately, which is the sign of I think of an incredibly healthy organization. You've spoken. It really made me smile because we connected when I visited you in London for the first time and have had some similar experiences. I haven't had the extent of yours, but I grew up representing the Perot family on a variety of issues, and they're a very strong family in the United States, and similarly, very principled. They have very strong values that govern how they make business decisions. And I've also been influenced greatly by a man named Vester Hughes, who was the named partner of Hughes and Luce. And the first thing he tells you when you start your career, and I've been at the same law firm that Vester Hughes started for 30 years, it now merged into K&L Gates in 2008. But Vester, the first point he makes is goodwill towards everyone, including, and maybe most importantly, your adversaries. So when I read an interview that you gave a while back, that was your first point that you make to professionals growing up. Talk a little bit about that and some of the things that you, I know you take mentorship very seriously, but some of the things that you impart to your mentees.
I do a lot of mentoring. I really love to do that. And this I'm not doing when I came to London. This I'm doing for the last almost 30 years or so. Now, when I was in India, I was teaching in many universities. Of course, these were all, part-time kind of job. And I was in the guest faculty. I did not accept any money. and I was working as general counsel and company secretary in major companies in India. I found that the best way to give back to the society is not always by money, but whatever knowledge and experience you are gaining. I consider myself as very, very fortunate that I worked in so many different varieties of business, industries, met so many people. Why can't I start giving them back? If somebody can be benefited, even if one person is benefited out of my own experience, it does not cost me anything except going around, talk to them, attend seminar, and just disseminate your knowledge. It is really fascinating. And the kind of satisfaction you get, Craig, you know very well. These days, constantly, I am being reminded every single day by some person or the other that you don't remember me. I was there in your class 20 years back. I was in your class 15 years back. And when I tell them what you are doing now, and some fascinating answers come, Today I am a director of Unilever India. I said, oh, come on. You have become a director in Unilever. He said, yes, I am the whole-time director in Unilever India. What you are doing? I have set up or started my own law firm. Okay, how many lawyers you have got? 200. I said, you have created an institution of 200 lawyers. Yes. Now, it gives you enormous satisfaction that people still remember you. And this is something, Craig, I personally believe that money cannot buy really. When somebody recognizes you after 20 years, they have got no reason to recognize you because they are not expecting anything from you. But then out of reverence, out of respect, out of gratefulness, they think there is a man who at least contributed even in a very minuscule way in shaping our career. And I can just give you huge number of examples. Even today, I am mentoring a number of people. Yesterday, I fought with my employer because, I am in the advisory council of Queen Mary University of London. Its law department is the 6th best in the world. Now, in the advisory council, which is headed by a Supreme Court judge in London, we devise the strategy, we devise the postgraduate course, doctoral course in law, etc. So, one candidate I was mentoring, she has just completed her master's in law. And she told me that, sir, can you give me some kind of, internship? I said, fine, let me try with my organization. And because of COVID and all, my bosses told me, Abhijit, why can't you just delay it? Because this is not the appropriate time. I said, no, but look, she requires some kind of training. Why can't we provide some training? Pay her a modest stipend. COVID, no COVID, you will not be poorer if you take her, and it is my responsibility to develop her in the next couple of months. And eventually they agreed. It gives me enormous pleasure. And as I said, if somebody recognizes your own contribution, which you might have given 20 years back, 10 years back, 15 years back, and if they say that you have touched their heart and you have been able to contribute to shape their career, no money can buy. So I feel immense pleasure when I get that kind of feeling.
Well, it's a form of in our world where we confront the concept of mortality with our various faiths and our perspectives on the world. It's a form of a legacy that you leave. I know that you share with my former mentor who recently passed away, Vester Hughes. It's just a good way to be, because you're leaving, as we talk about at our firm, try to leave things a little better than how you found them. And that's whether it's with an institution or a person. It really is the ultimate satisfaction. And as you say, it's something money cannot buy. What are some of the things that if that intern or one of your former students said, Abhijit taught me the following 2 or 3 things, what would they be? What would be some quick lessons you can impart to the folks listening to this podcast?
Craig, wherever I go, wherever I give lectures, wherever I attend seminar, at the end of the day, I always try to tell the audience a couple of things. First and foremost is develop your knowledge, develop your expertise. Don't become a jack of all trades. Now, I'm only talking about the legal profession. Don't say that you know everything about law. Nobody knows that. Law is a very vast area. Develop your expertise, develop your USP. You should be able to give advice based on your USP, but it does not mean that you should not know the other areas of law. But developing USP and be open enough and say, I do not know tax, where Craig may be an expert, but I am very good at joint ventures. I know the laws. I have got the experience in dealing with it. So that is my first suggestion, advice, always. Second thing I say, I am coming from the industrial background. Whenever I am asked to give advice, nobody is expecting me to give a lecture like a professor. Everybody expects in the business, give me solution. There is no point in just talking to me on the principles of law. Give me the solution. Say, for example, I'll give you a very interesting example. One of our group companies is British Leyland. The name is now Ashok Leyland. It is a $5 or $6 billion company. It is top 10 global bus makers. So they do business. They have got plants in different countries around the world, including in the United Kingdom. Now, they of late, they were getting many orders from the African countries. And I warned the group and the family that be very careful, because there could be some kind of sanctions in those countries, not only by America, but many other countries, including EU sanctions, then UK sanctions, etc. So be very careful, because you are headquartered in London, you have got operations elsewhere. So be very, very careful. And then family issues a direction to the automotive business that no sale will happen in those countries where there are sanctions without Abhijit's express approval. Now I thought, wow, that's something interesting. But after some time, I got increasingly worried, Craig, because, we were losing millions of dollars worth of businesses. Because the business used to come to me and I used to say, no, you can't sell vehicle in Zimbabwe. You can't sell vehicle in Senegal, in Dakar, in Kenya. But after some time, I thought that is it the good way of really doing some value-added job? And this is my second advice, which I give to everybody. Whatever you learn, you try to use it for the benefit of your business. Otherwise, business will not come to you. So after that, I did some research. I talked to the sanction-imposing authorities. I met them. I convinced them that this is what I do. Finally, they told me, fine, we have understood you. Put up your proposals. This is how we are going to help you. These are the parameters you should know. And based on that, if you give us a proposal, we'll be able to help you and approving the proposal. And you will be surprised to know, in the last 6 or 7 years, I was responsible for getting approval worth $150 million worth of automobiles, which we supplied in many countries. So that proves the point, basically, Craig, that it is not enough that you have got the knowledge. It is very easy for me to keep telling you, it is not possible, you have got sanction, but you will always tell me as a business, so now what do I do? Shall I close my shop and then go home? Third thing I always say, people. Ultimately, it is the people. Either you convince or get convinced, make them as your friend, don't make them as your enemy, because at the end of the day, if you can manage people, then you can manage anything and everything. And I am getting a great results out of that. When I was working with a Canadian multinational called Alcan, they were the largest aluminium producer in the world. I was specially trained there in dealing with joint venture and their partners. So I was trained in Norway, in Oslo, that, how do you handle your joint venture partners? How do you know about them? How do you really approach them? Different kind of interests that you should have in order to attract them, which will help you when you are doing the negotiations. So eventually, my third point is always that please be respectful to people. Do not make anything personal. You may agree with the other person. The other person may agree, may not agree. But it does not mean that you should start fighting. If you can manage, then you will be able to convince people. At the end of the day, it is either you convince or you get convinced. So this is a very important parameter which I always tell people. My fourth idea, what I try to tell everybody, keep yourself updated. When I started, the kind of legal climate there in the world, the kind of laws there in the world, you know very well, Craig, that they don't exist these days. It's completely different world. And with COVID, you are seeing that what kind of problems we may face and we may not face. So keep yourself updated all the time, because it is important. It is not enough to tell that, I have got this experience or that experience. But then when you are talking to a young lawyer, young industry professional, young executive, they do not have your experience, but they know the situation very well. They are very up to date. So if you are not up to date, then you are gone. So these are the four principles, what I feel that, that will keep you going.
Those are 6 great principles. I'm reminded when you say that of the story of the that's told. I can't remember the book, but Coca-Cola would have their people who would replace the bottles of Coke in the vending machines. And they said to some executives or just somebody up the chain, hey, there's water showing up in the vending machines. And maybe we ought to get in on this because we have to replace it all the time. And the executives ignored them. Well, at that point, purchasing one of those water companies would have been a tiny fraction of what Coke ended up having to pay to enter into the bottled water industry. But it does show you that being updated, your fourth principle, really does come from listening to people of all types. I learned so much from my kids. I had a moment in time. We have our hockey league playoffs going on, and about the social unrest in the United States right now. And that night, the team was playing, but the basketball had canceled because they said, enough of these unarmed black people getting shot by white police officers. So NBA was off, but I watched the first period of the hockey game, and I called my son, who's a big hockey fan. He, in fact, works for the Dallas Stars hockey team. And I said, Will, what do you think of the first period? Expecting him to talk about the game. And he said, they shouldn't be playing, Dad. They should not play tonight. They should respect and stand beside the black community, even though hockey is not a very colorful sport in the terms of who plays it. A lot of white Europeans or Americans or Canadians. He said they should honor this movement. And sure enough, the next day, hockey canceled their next 2 games of playoffs. And I thought to myself, that's a different way of thinking than I intuitively came up with, right? I was watching the game. And so, I learned from my son in his early 20s, and it showed me, as evolved as I think I am, I can always be improving and updating, as you say. It's wonderful. And in fact, you put that into practice in the way you manage, because if I understand correctly, you changed a little bit of the way the legal function worked by embedding those lawyers in the industry so that they could learn their business. So what I want to ask you is, tell us about your outside professionals that support you. What are things that you've seen them do that you say, that was very smart, that makes me trust you, that you can do the right things for the company? What have you seen them do? What are examples?
Well, I always say that, your success will be determined not by you, but by others, especially by the businesses. If you are flooded with businesses, they come to you, they are in a queue so that, they can get something out of you, then I presume that, you are successful as a legal professional, because legal professionals are people normally businesses they tend to avoid. You know much better than me. But when the businesses keep coming to you and then keep pestering you, then they keep dragging you in meetings after meetings, COVID, no COVID, then certainly you may be thinking that they may be thinking that this guy will be able to really contribute. So that's really very, very useful. And this is what I tell to my legal colleagues, legal professionals, including the external legal service providers. We have got external legal service providers all over the world. And whenever I talk to them, I always tell them that, look, the law you know much better than me, but I can give you the facts, I can give you the practical issue. So if you do not address the practical issues, there is no point of telling the law, basically. And I can give you so many examples. Let me give you one quick example. I was mentioning that we are developing this hotel in London. Now, this hotel will be run by Accor Group. Now, that's really a good brand, Accor. And when we engaged one of the big law firms, the partner in charge, he is an expert on hotel management agreement. So I gave him the briefing, and eventually I brought him to meet my group's co-chairman, who is the second brother. Now you imagine he is responsible for creating billions for himself. So therefore, he knows what he is talking of. So he asked the partner, who is a specialist, who is an expert in hotel businesses, that what kind of hotel management agreement you may be thinking in your mind, how do I negotiate with Accor? So he said X, Y, and Z. And my boss, the co-chairman, says that, no, I don't want this. I want the other way around. I expect this from the hotel. And eventually, the problem came because the law firm partner said, but this is not the standard in the market. This is what you are telling. The market does not go like this. Then the second brother asked him that who decides the market? And he said, I decide. I am the client. I am the creator of the market. So I will decide what market will need. So eventually don't tell me that this is possible or that is not possible. I respect your general idea because that is how the market operates. But certainly I could not have been successful in creating such a vast empire if I have to follow everybody. I decide the market, I determine the market. So you see, this, as I was mentioning, the application of your knowledge is really very, very important. And this is what I try to tell my legal colleagues, my external legal advisors, everybody, that you have got the domain knowledge. Try to see what the client wants, and you try to see whether you can really satisfy the client or not. This is something very interesting. Craig, I'll give you one more example. A couple of years back, we wanted to acquire one of the largest privately held banks in Europe. Now, somehow or other, the family, they did not get it because of several other political fields. We got the competition commission's approval from Germany, EU Competition Commission, but there were 10 more regulators who had to give the approval, but because of political issues, we could not get it. So the family was furious. So I brought one very big law firm, and they were discussing with the law firm what kind of actions they could take. And one of the ideas that came up from the family is that, can I go to the court and ask for some injunction? And the law firm said that, no, it is not possible. You cannot get injunction just like that, Now that infuriated the brothers. They said that what you are talking of, I need injunction. So I sensed some kind of danger. So I excused myself and some of the partners in the law firm, took them aside and say that you see the practical part of it. They are quite wounded. They have the money, they have signed the share purchase agreement. Now because of other factors, they are unable to get the bank. So you put yourself into their shoes and give them advice that what best they can do. I also know, like you, injunction will not be granted. But you tell them that, yes, I can try and get you the injunction, but I am not very sure whether you will be successful or not. And if you are unsuccessful, then, your reputation will be harmed because you will be there all over in the newspaper. That may not be good for the family. But if you won, I can try for it. And it worked. They said, no, then I go by you. Because, we don't want our reputation to be harmed. So it is important that how do you deal with your clients and how do you manage them, their expectation, whether in-house, external, whatever it may be. So I think this is something everybody really should learn, and this is something what I always try to tell to my own team, to my team in the external legal service providers, and to whomsoever I meet, including our other advisors also. Try to understand what the clients want, and then you use your domain knowledge. Try to come up with a solution. It is not necessary that every time you will be able to come up with a solution. But if it is not possible, tell them in a different way that we can try different models, but it is not going to work for you. It's quite hard sometimes.
It is hard. It's an empathic approach to being a good solution provider that requires you to listen well. It requires you to be able to ask the right questions, to understand the hot buttons for the client, because if you just give them the off-the-shelf answers, you say you're not being practical. You're not reflecting back on them that you've heard what their pain points are, maybe where they are psychologically. And you've had a master course in that, because when you deal with a family, you deal with all sorts of different issues. As you say, it's complicated, but you've kind of learned how to break those down and give good advice at the end of the day. I think that's fantastic advice. So there's so many different questions I could ask you, but it's Friday night your time, and your family would like to spend a little time with you, I suspect. So I'm gonna wrap up with this area, which is you're a reader. You're a learner. You're a lifelong learner. I've seen that over and over. I've talked to you so many times. I've heard about how you're approaching this pandemic and how you're learning from it. The first question is, what lesson did you get from this pandemic that you think will stick with us? And then I'm going to ask you a follow-up question in a second after that.
Motivating your team, continue to provide support to the businesses. These are the most difficult challenges because, you are unable to see them all the time. Even Zoom or any other video conferencing, you are not able to touch them. You are unable to find out their body chemistry, body language. So therefore, that's really a challenge. But that's an opportunity also I have seen, and I have tried to convert this into an opportunity. You become quite friendly with them. You develop fantastic bond with your people because everybody has got the same problem. Everybody is sitting at home. Everybody has got the issues. Bandwidth sometimes is an issue. Then obviously connection sometimes is an issue. Then nobody can go out. It is not possible because, you law firms may be quite accustomed in working from home. You may have the facilities also. But suddenly, 6 months back, we were told, in fact, I was instrumental in closing down our office. And then I just could not retrieve anything except my own, official laptop and come back home. So then you have to be operational. Now, in the last 6 months, I have acquired businesses. I have sold businesses. Today, I am doing a very big cross-border pan-European merger of one Dutch company into a company in UK. We are, We have done licensing arrangement on our IPR. Then on many legal sides, I'm today fighting a very big cross-border litigation in 7 or 8 countries. So everything, I even have not stepped out of my home. Now that's a big learning point. How do you engage with people? How do you motivate them? How do you make it relevant? And then how do you help the business? Everything. And how do you become very efficient, very economical in terms of your thought process, in terms of your communication? Because in the video and all that, it is not like person to person. When I meet you, Craig, in London, I've got no problem. I can spend extra 15 minutes, 20 minutes chit-chatting, but that kind of chit-chatting is not possible in a Zoom conference or many other conference. So therefore, that's a big learning process. I think at the end of the day, like you also, Craig, we have become quite efficient in terms of productivity, in terms of decision making. How do we manage our diary? How do we manage people? And eventually, this is something which we never experienced in our life. And I wish that we need not have to experience that. Working from home itself is a big challenge for us, and everybody is working fine. I think that is the biggest takeaway out of this pandemic. And above all, keep yourself motivated. Because, always if you watch the TV, always very depressing news. So then keep yourself motivated, keep your people motivated is something that's also very crucial.
It's very true. We are evolving. We're resilient as professionals. But you're right. It is, especially in the United States with November just a few months away, it is very divided and it's not uplifting. It doesn't matter what side you support. Last question for you. You, as I said, are a big reader. I'm a history person. I love biographies. I love learning about great people. Are there some mentors or a book that you've read that really just stuck with you, or a lesson from a mentor that stuck with you that you could share with folks?
Well, I think there are many things I do. It is not the question of book alone. What I am doing, I am reading a lot in terms of increasing my knowledge, improving my knowledge. And that not necessarily the basic principles of law, etc. So therefore, that is one sort of reading I do, keep myself updated. May not be specific laws, but the interpretation part of it. How do I really interpret the law? So there are many articles, many books that I am reading. I get whole host of books, even on complementary basis, both platform as well as physical also. So therefore, that is one way of dealing things. The other way is that, I talk to my family. I also have got a daughter. Now, she is also an avid reader. She also reads a lot of books, etc. And I get to learn. I learn a lot of things when I spend some time with her every single day. Unfortunately, because of COVID, she is with me. So therefore, I think that's a borrowed knowledge. But it's very difficult for you to spend time, etc., on books. I love to talk to people. So there are different ways how you can really energize your brain. One is direct reading. The other one is indirect reading through your own family. And the third one is, if you talk to people like you, etc., in 1 hour you will be able to learn a lot, which you won't be able to do because you have to invest time and energy in reading books. And last but not the least, there are some general books that I read, This may have got some Indian connotation and all that. We have got a fascinating president who died some time back. He was a nuclear physicist. Now his autobiography, if you read, he was a great scholar, he was a great mentor. So, he generated a lot of interest in the country itself. So I have read his autobiography. Now I am reading one of our ex-presidents of India, his autobiography. So politically, I am quite keen to learn, to understand, etc. I'm a student of both politics as well as economics. So number of books on economic theories, number of books on politics, and of course, my bread and butter law. So it is a variety and combination of many things. Normally, I read to keep my brain active.
Absolutely, and you're so kind with your time. You're always so interested in other people. You've been on a number of our roundtables. You always, I can tell, are interested in what everybody else is saying, even though, you've had probably the greatest breadth of experience, certainly. You're just a gem. It's just a real delight to get to spend this hour with you, to share what I know about you with people who may not know you. I think people are going to really enjoy listening to you. And I hope we can continue this. Obviously, as friends, we will continue this conversation privately, but maybe at some point in a year or two, we can update this and get some new reflections on the record. But I just want to thank you for your time today, Abhijit, for your friendship, and for the real nuggets that even I got to learn today that I think are really foundational principles to be a better lawyer, to be a better friend, spouse, counselor. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you for having me. It's really a delightful experience. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, and we'll start back our roundtables in September. So hopefully we'll get you on again.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Goodbye.